Hello everyone! Base design videos are great. Although some wise man once said, give the man a fish, he'll eat for a day. Teach him how to fish and he'll eat forever. In this video, we will be talking about building in Rust, all the way from the fundamentals to making a strong and most importantly viable and livable base design from scratch, using all the knowledge you acquired. We will also be breaking down some known building exploits and how to take advantage of them and implement them in your own base design. For the sake of keeping you guys attentive throughout the video, this is the plan we will follow. The basics of base building. Base building in Rust is simple to understand, yet extremely difficult to master. But the basics of it should always be respected, no matter how big you want to make your base. These basics are: always place your TC in the safest place possible in your base. The safest place is usually the deepest and furthest from the outside, both through doors, walls, and floors. Always upgrade your foundations when you upgrade the walls on top of them, especially if you have high foundations. Having more doors and airlocks lowers the chances of somebody getting to your loot if they kill you when you open your door. And of course it goes without saying that if you plan to upgrade your base in the future or have a compound, then you might look for a flatter area to build, away from rat towns and roads to avoid being building blocked, as it can be pretty frustrating not to be able to place the last wall to your compound because of a rat town blocking you. Now that we took a look at the cover of the base building book, let's open it and read the first chapter. Criteria of strength in a base. Or in other words, what makes a base strong? You might think to answer, a strong base is a base that requires the most explosives to reach the main loot and the TC. Well, yes, but actually no. See, while building a base with a set amount of resources, you need to balance the base between having mobility inside, which is the ease of navigating through the base, defendability, as of providing ways to defend an online raid, which is usually having a shooting floor or inner peek downs to be able to kill the raiders yourself, and explosive cost to reach the TC or the main loot. You can't have all of this, so you need to keep in mind what your focus should be while building your base. The needs may vary from one person to another. For example, a decent sized group would want to easily walk through the base without it being crowded, and also they would want to be able to defend their base from an online raid, as they have much more chances of winning than a solo. So they would rather sacrifice some honeycombing for inner peek downs, for example, and would sacrifice some roof stacking for a shooting floor or roof access. For this particular group, having a defendable base is safer than having a strong, tight, bunkered base with only one entrance and exit that they can't defend. For a solo player or a duo per se, they have way less chances of defending if they are getting raided by a bigger group, and also they have more chances of being offline while getting raided, as there's only 2 of them in total, so they won't be able to stay online at all times. So their go-to would be to make the raiders use the most explosives and have the hardest time getting to the main loot. So for them, a strong base is a base that would stand an offline raid and make the raiders give up either by how expensive it is or some tactically placed traps that can't let them move forward. Judging by your playstyle and the size of your group, you should be able to determine what direction you want your build to take in the spectrum. Practically fulfilling these needs. To sum up what we said so far, the way we're going to be thinking about the base we want to make is going to swing between mobility and cost to raid. Think about it like a slider in a character creation screen in a video game. You can choose to put it on the 2 extremes, or you can balance between them. Let's take a look at a base when the slider was put all the way left, maximizing mobility and online defendability. As we notice, the core of the base is not tight at all. Quite a bit of people could walk in here and no one would block the way for anyone. The loot is spread through a couple of loot rooms scattered around the main area. And also in this particular base, there are multiple ways to go out. Roof access above the shooting floor and inner peek downs with no honeycombing, which gives a considerable advantage over the raiders when they breach the first layer of walls. Now we consider the same base, but we take the slider a little bit up towards more cost to raid. We see how the base changes a little bit, making it cost more to raid, but getting rid of a few features like the hollow layer of peak downs it had. Privileging a harder, more compact honeycombing on triangle foundations, making it 3 layers of walls to the inside instead of 2. And also, the floors in the honeycombing negate splash damage from rockets, making it cost twice as much to destroy the 4 walls on the inside, as the damage from rockets would splash to the floor instead of another 2 walls. So by doing this, we sacrificed inner peak downs, which were great for online defending, but making the base overall weak. In the core of the base, not much has changed, except that we only have one door to the outside now, and therefore moved the TC further from the door, as doors are usually weak spots, costing much less to raid than walls. And armored the walls around the TC room if someone were to raid from that side. We can take the slider up higher and end up with a double stacked roof with no shooting floor for maximum protection, as windows are easier to break than walls, and even add the stability bunker. But after we do so, you can notice how strong the base gets, but loses all potential to defend an online raid. Let's take the stability bunker for example. It's not like a door that you can open and close whenever you want. It adds a huge layer of protection to the base, but if you're getting raided and choose to bunker yourself in, you won't be really able to defend, and will be waiting for the raiders to come to you instead, hoping they won't have enough explosives. Unless you have some gear in a drop box near an airlock or so, but even if you do so, you will still find yourself in a huge disadvantage and will most likely die. However, if you are not online, then the last iteration of the base has by far the highest chances of surviving. It goes without saying that we find ourselves in front of a dilemma. However, it just proves that you guys are the ones who shall decide what type of base suits you and is stronger for your needs, just like we said earlier. Before we move further, I wanted to let you guys know that only 1.9% of you who watch this channel are actually subscribed to it. I wanted to ask you to consider subscribing, as it helps us out a lot with the YouTube algorithm. And also, we have a Discord server with a great community where we host new skin giveaways every week. A link to it is in the description. Tips and exploits. In this sequence, we will be briefly showcasing some useful building tips that exist currently. Number 1. The stability bunker. Probably the most widespread one out there, used to block off an entrance with a floor that's only held by one half wall between 2 high foundations, making it easy to get rid of the floor like shown here. But the 2 foundations covering it can be easily pickaxed, which is the only weakness of this exploit, so make sure to upgrade them to armored. Number 2. The unlootable TC. Like shown here, the TC is placed deep on a low foundation. The rest of the base is on high foundations. Placing a floor, like shown here, makes the TC lootable by people having the code to it, but can't be looted if destroyed unless you destroy the wall, the floor, or the foundations around it. It is recommended to upgrade these structures to armored. Number 3. This third one goes along with the previous one. If you place a glass window, then a horizontal embrasure looking inwards, it is impossible to destroy the TC unless you destroy both the glass window and the embrasure, which costs a total of 3 C4. Number 4. The previous tricks can be applied to loot rooms. If you place locks on the boxes and block the loot room with a window frame, it becomes very hard to loot the boxes after you destroy them, especially the lower ones. Add to that a glass window and a horizontal embrasure, which are stronger than an armored door, and it becomes a really annoying loot room to raid. Number 5. If you're trying to maximize your space management, you can remove a triangle foundation if placed high and chuck 3 furnaces in that space. You will be able to normally walk on top of the furnaces and won't have to worry about making space for them. Number 6. Reinforced glass windows can be used as doors, as they can be picked up with a hammer. This relies solely on the fact that the raiders don't get building privilege, so keep the TC the safest while using this trick. Mistakes to avoid while building or upgrading. As you have come to understand by now, there is really no set base design that you have to follow to have a good base. It all depends on how well you estimate your needs and how familiar you are with the pros and cons of whatever structure you're building. However, any structure that is fundamentally flawed will take away from the viability of its intended purpose, sometimes drastically by providing ways to exploit it, therefore making it much weaker to raid. For example, backwards walls, windows with embrasures looking outside with a visible TC. Therefore, here are some mistakes to avoid and some reflexes to have while building any type of structure. First of all, backwards walls. A way to avoid placing your walls backwards is to always think about what's the most important compartment that you want the raiders to spend extra explosives to get to when you're making a wall between two foundations. Here's an example. In this case, we are making a wall to divide this first area, which will make for a hallway, from the second area which we intend to use as a loot room. When building a wall, we should keep in mind that the loot room is much more important than a vacant hallway. So the wall between the two should be hard-sided towards the hallway, meaning that people that manage to reach that same hallway will need to spend extra explosives if they want to reach the loot room on the other side, assuming they know it's there. Having the same wall soft-sided outwards means that it will be essentially free to destroy using pickaxes. Plus, it will be tempting to destroy even if people did not know what was behind. Number 2. Following backwards pickaxeable walls are pickaxeable floors. Keep in mind that all floors are pickaxeable from underneath. There are two main points to note here. First, don't have important loot rooms, etc. on a floor situated above the outer airlock, for example, because it might end up like this. The second point is to upgrade those important floors to higher quality materials, such as sheet metal or even armored, which are not immune to pickaxing, but are much harder to pickaxe since they have much more health, therefore discouraging people from even attempting to soft-side them. Number 3. Unupgraded frames. It's a very common mistake. Usually happens when people place stuff on the frame before upgrading it. It tends to blend in with the structures around it, making it hard to spot later on. That's why you should always upgrade your frames as soon as you build them. Number 4. Unlocked code locks on garage doors. Because of the location of the code lock on garage doors, sometimes unlocked code locks don't show the green light because it's hidden inside the wall like shown here. So again, lock every code lock you place before moving on to the second one. Number 5. Avoid having windows to the outside on the floor where you have your TC, especially if you have a small base, because people can shoot down your TC through the window, or if it's locked off with glass, they could see exactly the layout of your base. Number 6. While honeycombing and reinforcing the base from the outside, avoid placing a square foundation in front of another square foundation, and rather go for a triangle foundation to reinforce each square foundation, because it adds one layer of walls in the middle when you fill in the honeycombing, as you can see here. All in all, you are the one who will live in whatever structure you make in the game, so it's only fair for you to be able to make one that suits your needs. So having me or anyone else tell you how you should make your base in a mechanical way that you have to blindly follow doesn't seem right. Sure, some people got really good at building bases, but it's because they practiced it for countless hours and acquired their own knowledge and manners of approaching it. The first base you will make from scratch will not be perfect, but you will learn from your mistakes every time you build one. At the end, when you really understand the anatomy of a base, you will be able to come up with the perfect design for you every time your needs change. I really hope this video made you look at building from a different angle, and perhaps even motivated you to start practicing it, especially if you are a moderately new player. If you think this video is helpful, then consider taking a look at our other guides and tips videos. And if you like our content, why not subscribe and even join our Discord server, it's free. Thank you so much for watching and see you very soon for another video. This video was brought to you thanks to serverblend.com. If you're looking for a stable and reliable server host with the best support team, then Serverblend is the way to go. A link to their website is in the description.